The transport pod's landing vibrated through Elias Reed's bones as it touched down on Nixara's surface. He exhaled slowly, watching the emerald sky through the viewport, still unable to believe he'd made it. After 3 years of applications, interviews, and medical screenings, he was finally here, as far from Earth and its smoldering cities as possible. "Dr. Reed, welcome to Nixara Colony," announced the automated voice. "Local time is midday. Temperature is optimal. Please proceed to immigration." Elias gathered his minimal belongings, mostly research equipment and botanical samples, and stepped out into air so sweet it made his head spin. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, making his movements feel dreamlike as he approached the crystalline structure serving as the colony's administrative center. Another Terran botanist? The immigration officer, human who'd clearly lived on Nixara for years, judging by the slight luminescence of her skin, didn't look up from her screen. "We've had quite a few lately." "Xenobotanist, actually," Elias corrected quietly. "I specialize in cross-planetary plant hybridization." She stamped his documents with disinterest. "You're assigned to Dwelling 17, Eastern Grove. The hover tram leaves in 20 minutes. The Nixorans are expecting you." Elias nodded, relieved at the brevity of the interaction. Social niceties had never been his strong suit, which made him perfectly suited for solitary research on an alien planet. The devastating resource wars had left him with an aversion to crowds and noise, both of which Earth had in overwhelming supply. The hover tram glided silently through landscapes that seemed plucked from dreams, floating rock formations covered in phosphorescent moss. Trees with translucent trunks revealing flowing purple sap. Elias documented everything on his tablet, already forming hypotheses about pollination methods and growth patterns. Dwelling 17 exceeded his expectations, a modest structure seemingly grown rather than built. It emerged organically from the hillside, overlooking a small lake that shimmered with bioluminescent organisms. Inside, the furniture was minimalist but comfortable, with strange plants integrated into the design. Perfect for a man who preferred chlorophyll to conversation. As twilight approached, casting 3 moons in violet hues across the lake, Elias was organizing his lab equipment when a melodic chime indicated someone at his door. He opened it to find a tall, slender figure standing in the gloaming light. Her skin was a soft lavender hue that seemed to pulse gently with an inner luminescence. Large, iridescent eyes somewhere between silver and the palest blue, he guarded him with unexpected warmth. The delicate structures extending from her temples suggested gill-like respiratory assistance. Pulsing softly with each breath, "I am Veranim," she said in perfectly accented English. "I tend the healing gardens beyond the ridge. I've come to welcome you, neighbor." "Oh, thank you," Elias stammered, awkwardly extending his hand as he'd been instructed in the cultural briefing. "I'm Elias Reed. I look forward to peaceful coexistence and ... He struggled to remember the phrase, ... harmony between our dwellings. Vera's eyes widened, the silver in them flashing like lightning. She took his extended hand in both of hers, her touch cool and smooth, and pressed it gently to her forehead in a fluid motion. "The stars have aligned," she whispered, her voice suddenly intimate. "I accept your proposal of unity, Elias Reed of Earth. Our essences are now joined under Nixara's moons." "I'm sorry, what?" Elias pulled his hand back, confused. Vera smiled serenely. "The binding ceremony is complete. Rest well, my soul companion. Tomorrow, I will help you move your belongings to our shared dwelling." As is customary, before Elias could process what was happening, she turned and glided away, leaving him standing in the doorway, mouth agape. As the 3 moons cast their judgment from above, Elias spent a restless night researching Nixaran customs on his datapad. By morning, his eyes were bloodshot, and his suspicions confirmed he had accidentally initiated a soul binding, a formal union similar to marriage but supposedly deeper on a metaphysical level. The cultural briefing had clearly omitted some critical details. The soft light of dawn brought Vera to his doorstep again, this time with a small procession of Nixarans carrying ornate containers. "These are traditional binding gifts," she explained, as Elias reluctantly let them inside. "Essences from my family's ancestral gardens to harmonize your dwelling with mine." "About that," Elias began, clearing his throat. I believe there's been a misunderstanding. On Earth, what I said was just a greeting, not a ... proposal. Vera's luminescent eyes dimmed slightly. You spoke the sacred words while extending your essence bridge. She gestured to his hand. The witnesses were the 3 moons in alignment. It is most binding. But I didn't know, he protested, panic rising. Surely there's a protocol for misunderstandings. I will consult Elder Zix, she conceded, though her posture stiffened. But I must warn you, dissolution of a binding is rare and brings great dishonor to both families. My position as head healer would be compromised. Master Vera? And her entourage departed. Elias rushed to the colony's administrative center, where the same disinterested human officer from yesterday barely looked up. You bound yourself to Vera Nim? She whistled. She's from one of the most respected lineages on Nixara. Her healing compounds have saved thousands. It was accidental. I didn't know ignorance of local customs isn't grounds for annulment here. She slid a pamphlet across the counter. The Nixarans take these bonds very seriously. Breaking it could affect our whole research agreement. Elias left with his head spinning. Back at his dwelling, he found Vera arranging luminous plants throughout his living space. Elder Zix will see us tomorrow, she informed him. Until then, I have brought harmonizing flora to begin our essence melding. What exactly does that mean? Elias asked warily. These plants synchronize brain rhythms of those who dwell among them, she explained, touching a glowing frond that pulsed in response. They ease the transition into shared consciousness that all bound pairs experience over time. Elias backed away. Shared consciousness. That wasn't in the brochure. Hint of amusement crossed Vera's face. It is not literal mind treating, just emotional resonance. Humans call it empathy, I believe. Look, Elias sighed, sitting down heavily. I came to Nixara for solitude, for peace. My work requires focus, not family obligations. Vera considered him thoughtfully. The plants you study, do they not thrive best in symbiosis with others? Few species exist in true isolation. Plants are different, he muttered. Are they? She moved toward the door, pausing before exiting. I've prepared evening meal at my dwelling. Join me if only to discuss how we proceed with Elder Zix tomorrow. Against his better judgment, Elias found himself walking the luminescent path to Vera's home that evening. Her dwelling was similar in structure to his, but infinitely more alive plants grew from every surface, some moving subtly as if breathing. These are all healing varieties, she explained, noticing his scientific interest. This one, she indicated a spiral-shaped blue organism, produces compounds that accelerate cellular regeneration in both our species. Despite himself, Elias was fascinated. May I examine it? Of course, all that is mine is yours now. The meal was strange, but delicious flavors shifting and evolving with each bite. Vera asked intelligent questions about Earth's botanical diversity, and Elias found himself talking more than he had in years. Why healing plants? He asked eventually. A shadow crossed her features. During the Great Dimming, many Nixarans perished from cellular degradation. My parents among them. I dedicated myself to ensuring it never happens again. Elias recognized the look in her eyes, the same determination he'd seen in the mirror after losing his sister in the resource wars. Perhaps they weren't so different after all, as 3 moons rose again. Casting their light through the translucent ceiling, Vera's skin seemed to glow more intensely, and Elias caught himself staring at the elegant curve of her neck, the delicate structures of her face. He said softly. On Earth, people usually date before getting married. Date. She tilted her head. Spend time together. Learn about each other. See if they're compatible. Vera's lips curved in a smile that made something flutter in Elias's chest. Then let us date, Elias Reed, while we wait for Elder Zix's judgment. The meeting with Elder Zix proved less helpful than Elias had hoped. The ancient Nixaran, whose skin had faded to the palest lavender with age, listened to their case with closed eyes, the gill-like structures on his temples barely moving. The binding was performed correctly. He finally pronounced, "Intent matters less than action in our ways." However, he added, noting Elias's crestfallen expression, There is the ritual of discernment. If, after one full lunar cycle, you find true incompatibility, you may petition for separation. A month. Elias could survive a month of this charade. During this time, Elder Zix continued, you must share a dwelling, as tradition demands, or maybe not. My research, Elias began. Can continue, Vera? Interjected smoothly. My dwelling has an eastern chamber suitable for a laboratory. It receives optimal light for your specimens. Elder Zix nodded approvingly. It is settled then. Moving his equipment to Vera's dwelling that afternoon, Elias was surprised to find she had prepared the space exactly as he would have, the same arrangement he'd used in his own lab. But with improvements. More light, better ventilation, and proximity to several plants that apparently reduced ambient microbes. How did you know how I organize things? He asked. Vera's eyes glimmered. I observed your dwelling yesterday. I pay attention to details. Over the following days, they fell into an unexpected rhythm. Mornings began with Vera meditating in the garden, while Elias cataloged overnight changes in his experiments. They would share a light meal before each retreating to their work, Elias, with his hybrid plants. Vieira preparing healing compounds for the colony. In the evenings, they would discuss their findings, each genuinely interested in the other's work. Elias found himself looking forward to these conversations, to the way Vera's eyes brightened when she described a breakthrough, or how her laughter sounded like distant wind chimes when he shared stories from Earth. One night, a powerful electromagnetic storm swept across the region. As violet lightning forked across the sky, Elias noticed Vera's growing distress. The medicinal seedlings, she explained, they cannot withstand the ionic disruption. Without hesitation, Elias helped her construct a protective field using modified equipment from his lab. They worked together through the night, rain soaking them as they struggled to shield the vulnerable garden. When dawn finally broke, they stood exhausted but successful amid the undamaged plants. Their clothes clinging to their bodies. Thank you, Vera said, reaching out to touch his face. You sacrificed your own specimens to save mine. Elias shrugged. They were just experiments. Yours saved lives. Something shifted between them in that moment. A recognition, perhaps, that their forced proximity had evolved into something neither had anticipated. That night, as they sat before the bioluminescent hearth drying off, Vera moved closer to Elias. In Nixaran culture, she said softly, bonds begin with necessity, but grow through choice. Each day we choose our bond anew. Her hand found his, cool fingers intertwining with warm ones. And today? Elias asked, his voice barely a whisper. Today I would choose you, she answered, her eyes reflecting the dancing lights. Not because of words spoken in ignorance, but because of who you are. The kiss that followed felt like discovering a new element, something neither fully terrestrial nor alien, uniquely theirs. Her skin glowed more brightly at his touch, and Elias felt a resonance within himself, as if some dormant part had finally awakened. Later, as Vera slept beside him, her breathing synchronized with his, Elias gazed at the three moons through the translucent ceiling and realized with startling clarity, that he no longer counted the days until the ritual of discernment. Instead, he found himself counting the moments they shared, treasuring each one like the rare specimens he'd traveled across the galaxy to find. 3 weeks into their arrangement, Ilias's datapad chimed with a message that shattered the delicate harmony they'd built. The Earth's Botanical Consortium was recalling all xenobotanists after a breakthrough in combating the blight that had devastated its remaining croplands. His specialized knowledge was deemed essential. The transport ship already dispatched to collect him. Elias stared at the screen, conflicted. A month ago, he would have considered this miraculous timing a perfect excuse to end his accidental binding and return to familiar solitude. Now, the thought of leaving Nixara, of leaving Varel, a hollow ache in his chest. Important news? Vera asked, entering with a basket of shimmering fruits. Earth needs me, he answered, unable to meet her eyes. There's a ship coming in for days. The basket slipped from Vera's hands, scattering iridescent fruits across the floor. The delicate structures at her temples flared with agitation. I see, she said, her voice unnaturally even. Then the ritual of discernment will be unnecessary. You have found your true path. It's not that simple, Elias protested. Millions could starve if this blight isn't contained. I have knowledge that could help, of course. Your duty to your world is greater than any. Temporary arrangement here. She knelt to gather the fallen fruits, her movements stiff. Elias reached to help her, but she withdrew from his touch. Vera, please, you should begin packing your specimens, she interrupted. I will inform Elder Zix of the dissolution. That night, Elias slept alone in the laboratory. The plants that had once seemed to bend toward him now appeared to shrink away, as if sensing his impending departure. He told himself it was just his imagination plants didn't have preferences. Yet even his scientific certainties felt less solid now. On this world where everything pulsed with unexpected connections, the following days brought a glacial politeness between them. Vera continued her healing work, spending longer hours in the community center, returning only after Elias had retired. He found himself missing their conversations, the way her perspectives challenged and expanded his own. On his final evening, Elias attended the colony's regular gathering, something he would have avoided at all costs when he first arrived. The Nyxorans performed a traditional farewell ceremony, wishing him safe passage. Vera stood at the periphery, her usual luminescence dimmed, her eyes avoiding his. Later, as he made final preparations in the laboratory, Vera appeared in the doorway. "I've brought something for your journey," she said, holding out a small crystalline container. Inside was a seedling unlike any he'd seen, pulsating with subtle color changes from deepest purple to palest blue. It's a memory bond plant, she explained. It thrives on emotional resonance. On Earth it will respond to, she hesitated, any feelings you might retain of Nyxara. Elias accepted the gift, their fingers brushing momentarily. The seedling glowed more brightly at the contact. I'll treasure it, he promised, fighting the tightness in his throat. Elias Vera began, then stopped, seeming to reconsider. May your research bring healing to your world. As dawn broke on departure day, Elias found himself wandering to the ridge overlooking the colony. The 3 moons were setting, their light fading as Nyxara's sun emerged, casting everything in a golden-green glow. I thought I might find you here. Elder Zix stood beside him, his ancient eyes regarding Elias with uncomfortable perception. Did you know, the elder mused, that Nyxorans can form binding connections with only one soul in their lifetime? Once severed, that capacity is diminished. Elias frowned. Vera never mentioned that. She would place undue influence on your decision. Elder Zix gazed toward the horizon. She believes your departure is best for you, and so she accepts it, even at great personal cost. That's not fair to her, Elias protested. Fairness is a human concept, the elder replied. Nyxarans speak instead of harmony and discord. What creates greatest harmony is deemed right. As the transport ship descended through the atmosphere, its engines disrupting the peaceful morning, Elias clutched the memory bond plant and felt the weight of worlds colliding. The Earth transport ship hummed with mechanical efficiency as Elias stared out the viewport. Nyxara grew smaller beneath him, its swirling emerald atmosphere receding into the vastness of space. He cradled the memory bond plant, which had already begun to wilt, despite his careful attention. Beautiful planet, remarked the pilot. Shame about the recall. Were you there long? Not long enough, Elias murmured. The ship's engines roared, preparing for the jump to hyperspeed when the console erupted with warning lights. Unusual solar activity, the pilot explained, frowning at the readings. We'll have to delay the jump and return to Nyxara's orbit until it passes. As they descended back toward the planet, Ilias's datapad chimed with an incoming transmission from the colony. Extraordinary phenomenon, explained the colony's chief scientist, her face animated with excitement. The celestial alignment is occurring, an event witnessed only once every 2 centuries. All 3 moons will eclipse Nyxara's sun simultaneously, creating a gravitational convergence that amplifies the planet's natural energy fields, Elias remembered. Vera mentioning this event a sacred time when Nyxarans believed the boundaries between souls became permeable. allowing for deepest truths to emerge. "How long will the solar disturbance last?" he asked the pilot. "At least 12 hours? We're grounded until then."
Ow.
One last chance. Back at the colony, Elias found the Nixorans gathered at the ceremonial grounds, their bodies glowing with unusual intensity as the sky darkened with the approaching alignment. He searched the crowd until he spotted Vera, standing apart from the others, her face lifted toward the darkening sky. "You returned," she said without turning, somehow sensing his presence. "The solar activity delayed our jump," he explained, then added more softly, "I'm glad it did." The first moon slid across the sun, casting everything in a violet hue. Around them, Nixorans began a low, harmonic chant. "The alignment reveals truth," Vera said. "It is why I stand apart. My truth may be difficult to witness." "Elder Zix told me about the binding," Elias said, "that you can only form it once." Vera's eyes finally met his. He should not have. "Why didn't you tell me? What purpose would it serve? To burden you with guilt as you return to save your world?" Her skin pulsed with emotion. "I accepted the consequence of our misunderstanding." The second moon joined the eclipse, deepening the violet to indigo. The memory bond plant in Ilias's hand suddenly brightened, responding to the intensifying energy field and perhaps to something within him. "What if it wasn't a misunderstanding?" he asked. "What if it was the universe's strange way of giving us both what we actually needed instead of what we thought we wanted?" Vieira tilted her head. "You speak poetically for a scientist." "I've been influenced by Nixoran thinking," he smiled, "and by you." The final moon moved into position, completing the perfect alignment. The world plunged into a breathtaking darkness, illuminated only by the glowing bodies of the Nixorans and the ring of fire around the eclipsed sun. In that otherworldly light, Elias held out the memory bond plant between them. It pulsated with brilliant radiance, stronger than before. "I came to Nixara, seeking isolation, thinking peace meant absence of conflict, of connection, of risk," he said. "But real peace isn't emptiness. It's finding where you belong." Vera's eyes shimmered with emotion. "And where do you belong, Elias Reed?" "I don't know yet," he answered honestly. "But I know it's not on Earth anymore. And I know I want to discover it with you." He reached for her hand, joining it with his around the glowing plant. "The consortium can get another xenobotanist. But there's only one Vieira Nim. Your world needs you," she whispered, though her fingers intertwined with his. "Then we'll find a way to help Earth without sacrificing what we've found here," he promised. "Maybe your healing compounds could be adapted for Earth's plight. We could work together, a true symbiosis." As the moons began their slow departure from perfect alignment, casting prismatic light across the gathering, Vera stepped closer to Elias. The memory bond plant between them grew visibly, sending out tiny tendrils that gently encircled their joined hands. "In Nixoran belief," she said, "the celestial alignment allows for rebirth. Old bonds can be released, and new ones forged with clearer intention." "Then I have something to say," with full awareness this time, Elias smiled. He recited the traditional Nixoran binding phrase, but added his own words, not because of custom or accident, but because in all the vast universe, I choose you. The third moon cleared the sun's edge, restoring normal light to the world, but something had fundamentally changed. The memory bond plant had transformed, its blossom opening to reveal a perfect miniature of both Nixara and Earth in its center. Two worlds in delicate, beautiful balance. That night, as they lay beneath the once again visible stars, Vara's skin glowing softly against his, Elias realized that the peace he had crossed galaxies to find had never been about location. It was about connection, finding someone who made the silence comfortable and the conversations meaningful. "What happens now?" he asked, tracing the luminescent patterns on her arm. Vera smiled, her silver eyes reflecting starlight. "Now we create our own protocol, one world at a time. Above them, the three moons of Nixara continued their eternal dance. Witnesses to an accidental beginning that had become a deliberate choice, proof that sometimes the universe's greatest gifts come disguised as its most perplexing misunderstandings."